So hello and welcome to another episode of Career Lab. I'm Joel Siegel, the host and producer. And of course, Career Lab is the podcast that features America's career counselor, Julie LaCroix. And Julie, welcome.
Well, thanks, Joel. It's great to see you.
Great to see you. We've been off for a couple of weeks and now we're back. And this is kind of our holiday episode. And I'm very excited to get to work with you. So for all of our listeners, we've been on the air now for almost 7 seasons. And as you all know, Career Lab is a podcast in which Julie and I help career development with lots of different people. We have special guests who have done a lot of interesting careers. We have new people who are working on their careers. We have young professionals who are struggling and striving to find their way career-wise. And Julie is always incredibly helpful with those people. So let's get started today. How are you, Julie?
I'm really good. It's the holiday season, as you mentioned, and it's always an interesting time in the economy. So lots of hiccups and starts and sprints. This is actually a wonderful time for hiring. A lot of people back off and think, oh, it's the holiday season, so I don't need to apply. But actually, a lot of people think that. So there's less competition and there's a considerable amount of hiring. So it's actually been quite busy for me and my clients who are America's candidates. So Lots of hiring happening.
That's very interesting to hear. I didn't really realize that, normally we think of the holiday time as being, except for sort of add-on labor, a time when people aren't able to really acquire positions.
Nope, it's always a very busy time.
That's funny because I do have a couple of clients who are also wanting to hire right now, even though they're right in the middle of the holiday season. Okay, it's good to see you. Good to be back on the air. So today we have a special guest for our show, and we are very fortunate to have her. Her name is Rhonda Sher, and I'm so excited to meet with Rhonda, and let's bring her on and welcome her into the program.
Hey everybody, Julie LaCroix here from the Career Lab podcast. Just want to give a shout out to DuSer Global Education. DuSer.education is the website. If you're looking for an easy access, low price online solution to getting an MBA, DuSer Global is your place to go. They offer amazing faculty, incredible speakers, customized education to your line of work. And do you need a bachelor's degree? You don't. If you have 5 years of management experience or equivalent, and you're looking to advance your career, maybe move out of a family business, move into a different company in your current industry where they're looking for some additional training, or you just want to be promoted and get some professional development, please reach out to DuSer Global. It's DuSer.education. They have the solution for you. It's a wonderful intersection between professional mobility and academic pathway, academic progression. DuSer Global Education.
So this is going to be fun, and we'll get a chance to talk to Rhonda and see a little bit about what she's been doing and hear from her. And we're very lucky to have her on. And there she is, live and in person, Rhonda Sher. How are you, Rhonda?
I'm great. How are you?
We're doing well. Welcome to Career Lab. It's a great pleasure and an honor to have you on, really, because you have such great skills. So let me just do a little introduction that, you are a LinkedIn expert and a lot of other things, too, that we're going to talk about. And we thought it would be wonderful if you would come on and share a little bit about your own career journey and some of what you do to help people magnify their potential, optimize their career, and display that to other people on the LinkedIn platform, which has really become one of the most dominant professional platforms out there now. And it's funny how things have developed, but it's really that way. So we're really grateful to have you on the show.
Thanks. I'm really happy to be here.
Great. Why don't we start by having you share a little bit about your own career journey? I know that our listeners are really going to be interested to hear about how you got to be where you are and who you are.
So what's interesting, Joel, is I grew up thinking I always wanted to be an attorney, believe it or not. And I think that my father really encouraged it because he told me I knew how to argue better than anybody else. So my intention was, that I was just going to go to college and I was going to go to law school. And I graduated from UMass Amherst, and my parents told me that if I wanted to go to law school, I would have to live at home. And I thought that was a fate worse than death. I had already had the experience of living in, UMass Amherst, which is like the equivalent of UCLA, this first sense of freedom.
Right.
And to go backwards, and my parents were smokers on top of it. So I thought, oh my gosh, I'm just not going to do that. So I actually went the paralegal route, and I went to school at Delphi, and I became a paralegal.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I spent the first part of my career as a paralegal. And interestingly, when I first got married, my husband said, why don't you go to law school? And I had a job working for Cox, Castle, and Nicholson, a big law firm in Century City. And the lawyers were the most unhappy people I had ever met. They never got out of their offices. And here I was as the paralegal having, more contact with people, right? I was actually having fun. And so I stayed there for a long time, and then eventually decided, well, we're going to have kids. So I didn't want to I was living in Redondo Beach, driving to Century City. I thought, oh, this isn't going to work. So I ended up getting a job at the Aerospace Corporation in El Segundo as their in-house paralegal. And it was perfect because I got to actually interview all the outside counsel that we hired. So they actually had to get past me to get hired as outside counsel. You wouldn't believe how many cookies I got. Oh, I got cookies, and somebody even sent me rugula,
That's a tail wagging the dog.
I bet.
Because I was the gatekeeper to the general counsel. Well, when my kids were born, I worked part-time. So it was really perfect. I worked from 7 to 12 so I could spend every afternoon with my kids. And but what I realized was that I didn't really love what I was doing. I just had this entrepreneurial spirit to me. And so my journey took me to, I don't know if you've ever heard of prepaid legal. Remember prepaid legal? It's still around.
Yes.
So I got bitten by that bug.
I didn't know it was still around.
It is.
It is. And so I sold prepaid legal. And but I got into it on a different level. I actually sold it as an employee benefit. I built a team and I sold it as an employee benefit. And I eventually left aerospace and created a business around selling prepaid legal services. And the way that I did it was networking. That was how I built my entire business. And the funny thing about that was we ended up moving from Redondo Beach to Thousand Oaks. And so the first thing that I did, talk about, career and all of that, was I joined the Chamber of Commerce. And I jumped right in because I didn't know anybody. I moved to, it was probably 2 hours from where I was living, right? New place, didn't know anyone. Husband had a job. My husband was working for Kinko's in Santa Barbara. So Thousand Oaks was a perfect place for us, right? And what I realized pretty quickly was that the best way to, grow my business was network. So I started to go to all of the chamber events. And this is the funny thing. One day somebody came up to me, Joel, and they said, hey, Rhonda, we'd love for you to speak to our group. And I thought, wow, I'm going to get to talk about prepaid legal, right? And they said, no. We've never seen anybody network like you. We want you to tell us how you network. And I went, oh, okay. So I put together a little talk, and I said, any questions? Now you got to remember, this is before the internet, right? I mean, we were still using dial-up in those days, right? And they said, yeah, when are you going to write a book? You have a system. So I wrote my very first book called The 2-Minute Networker, because I really believe that you were two people and 2 referrals away from your next client, right? And then shortly thereafter, guess what? LinkedIn came out. And I thought, wow, now everybody knew Facebook, but there was no female face to LinkedIn. Okay, there was a female face, Mari Smith, who still is the face of LinkedIn when it comes to marketing. But I said, well, you know what? I want to be that person. So what did I do? I went out and wrote another book. I called it The ABCs of LinkedIn, Get LinkedIn or Get Left Out. I self-published it. I charged $99, and I literally couldn't print enough. Like everywhere I went, I just sold out. And what I realized was, And what's really interesting about it, Joel, is that the skills that I had as a paralegal were very similar to what you needed to use LinkedIn, right? I've always been somebody that's done 2 crossword puzzles a day in ink. So I love to connect the dots. And LinkedIn was just like doing another puzzle. I was self-taught. I just learned how to connect. And I started to teach people how to use it. And as they say, the rest is history, right? I've been doing it since 2009. But the best part of the story in terms of the personal journey is when I first got married way back in 1980, my husband said to me, I have one request. I said, oh, okay, what's that? He said, please don't make more money than me. Now, I have 2 daughters, and they're now 33 and 35. But if anybody ever said that to them, I would tell them to run, not walk.
Yeah.
But that was a different era. And so after 28 years, Bob and I amicably divorced. And, a lot of stuff happened in that time. Like my mom passed away, cancer scare, house culture. And I thought, okay, what am I going to do? Nobody was hiring speakers at that time. And I thought, yeah, I'm going to be one of those supermarket greeters. But I realized that I knew LinkedIn, right? And I had this superpower. So I went out, got my life insurance license, used LinkedIn to actually go grow my business. And in 6 weeks, I was generating $6,000 a month. And by the end of that year, I was generating 6 figures, all using LinkedIn. But I also realized 2 things. Number one, I didn't like selling life insurance. It just didn't light me up. And I had created a system that anybody could duplicate. So fast forward to 6 years from the time that I got divorced, or 6.5 years, I reconnected with my ex-husband, and basically we remarried. And when we remarried, he said, I have one request. I said, what's that? He said, please make more money than me. Well, truth be told, I actually used LinkedIn to allow him to retire from his corporate job. So he's been happily retired since October of 2020. He actually works with me now, does my Zooms and all my other back office stuff. And I like to say I have a husband, a husband, didn't have to change my name. The kids are ours, and I gave birth to the LinkedIn, the Sher Method. So there you go.
What a fantastic story. I wanted you to tell that because I knew some of that, but I knew that it would be, incredible for our listeners to hear about that journey, not only remarrying your husband and having him finally understand that he wanted you to make more money than but also the whole adventure you've been on. It's really interesting. Julie, what do you think about Rhonda's story?
I think, Rhonda, your storytelling skills are incredible. And as a career counselor, I've been doing this for 18 years. I do 1,000 client contact hours a year. Doing the math, there are a few attorneys in there, quite a few. They are of the best writers in America. I'll bet you would have been a great attorney. You have amazing communication and story stitching skills. That was really fun. That was a fun journey. And I'm all in. Like, I want to hear, what's the Sher Method? Tell me, like, I want to know all about it. So thank you for giving us your journey. Career journeys are often full of trial and tribulation and starts and fits and stalls and scares. And you just kind of bounced the ball all the way across and showed us, the key points. So that was well delivered.
Well, I appreciate that. And I'll tell you something that's kind of interesting that really ties into the career stuff. Most of the time when you meet somebody, right, you said you have 1,000 conversations a year. Don't you typically Google the person that you're going to talk to? Isn't that something that you do?
I don't. They're usually Googling me. But if I'm in a different setting, like if I'm like, I Googled you, of course, I want to know who I'm having I look for the background. But in my world, yes, I gather information through my intake forms. I do gather information. Yes.
Yeah. So what's really funny is that if you have 500 connections on LinkedIn and you're somewhat active and you don't have that common of a name, it's not Smith or Jones or Brown, right? Mm-hmm. There's a 70% chance or better that your LinkedIn profile is going to show up on the first page of Google when somebody puts your name in. So when my kids were young, they thought it would be so cool to go out and Google all the moms. So they went out and they Googled all the moms because the internet was pretty new back then. And they came back and they went, there's like 10 pages on your mom, Stephanie. Is she famous? And my daughter goes, no, my mom doesn't even have a job. She just talks. I mean, it was hysterical because every time I gave a talk, Google picked it up, right? So, the point is that you can't really overlook LinkedIn,
right?
Because that's the one thing that's going to show up. So, I always say to people, are you in the LinkedIn Witness Protection Program or are you runway ready and dressed for the party?
Well, there's kind of a unique convergence for you. Sometimes it happens to people, but not that often, Rhonda, where your skills and your understanding of what was going on with LinkedIn much earlier sort of paralleled the development of the platform. So that now, as the platform has developed and become what it's become, you've become, a real dominant figure in the platform. And I'm so happy that your career was able to mirror, your own development with the development of the platform, so that now you're in a really very good place to help a lot of people.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's always changing. So for me, as what I call, somebody who has ALD, addictive learning disorder, because I'm always learning, I can just keep passing that on. I've really been jumping into AI and AI and LinkedIn. If you personalize it, I'm not talking about just cutting and pasting. It can save you 3 hours a day and still give you, it's almost like just putting your car in turbocharge. You can turbocharge LinkedIn, and I love it. So there's so many ways that I get to empower people, whether they're mid-career, changing jobs, they're a consultant looking for a job, they're an attorney that's trying to grow their practice. It doesn't matter. There's so many different ways that you can use LinkedIn.
One of the things I wanted to ask you, because I'm obviously very active on LinkedIn and we know each other well, and I know some of the things you do, and I have a pretty active profile on LinkedIn. But it's funny how many professionals, and these are fairly high-level professionals I work with, do not. I mean, they really just don't really either use the platform or understand the platform or really get anything out of it, And so I thought you might share a little bit about, what people can get by developing their LinkedIn profile and using the platform a little bit more.
Well, I love that question because, one segment of people that I work with a lot are people that work with large companies. So you might think of, we've all heard of Insperity. We've heard of all of the big insurance companies, even the law firms, right? Not the sole practitioners. And all of those people have a website that belongs to the company. It is not their website. So if I wanted to check that person out, maybe they work with a very large financial service firm, right? Or they work with a large employee benefits company, or they're with a franchise like Sales Acceleration or EOS or any of the ones that we've all heard of, right? They all have the same website. They don't have a website that's about them. So LinkedIn is really your mini website. It's your opportunity to tell people who you are and why you're different. And one of the things that I've recently added to what I'm sharing with clients is get interviewed. Have an interview and you drive the questions, right? Because if somebody gets to know you, then they develop the trust and the like factor. And you can put that on the profile where, yes, if you have your own website, that's awesome. You can put it there. But so many people work for companies, and I hate this expression, but it's true. They eat what they kill, right? So they have to go find the clients because they're on commission to be able to make the money. And yet they don't have a website that's all about them. So you can use LinkedIn as your personal website. That's where you can actually put case studies that you've done, have an interview of you, have projects of what you've done. And instead of starting out with, I'm passionate about, which is great, but nobody cares until they know what you can do for them, start out with, clients hire me because, right? That's the big differentiator. And it's just think of it like a clean palette. You can paint anything you want on it. So it's really an amazing tool.
Julie, what do you think?
I'm wondering what advice you would have, like what are the uses of LinkedIn for the different demographics? So there's the commission only salesperson who's repping a line of XYZ widget. There's the young college grad who's kind of learning the beginning steps of online networking and offline networking for that matter, and just kind of learning to navigate this world of work that we live in. There are mid-career changers. There are large businesses who are looking for B2B accounts. Can you just kind of give us just touch on like some of the strategies or think tips that, ways that you would guide your clients to use LinkedIn given those different demographics?
Yeah, so they all fall under what I call the Sher Method, which has 3 steps. The first one is position. How are you showing up? So what I see a lot are people that are super qualified, like absolute superstars, but you look at their profile and number one, it's outdated. But number 2, it looks like they're looking for a job, right? It's written in third person. And I will say to them, are you looking for a job? And they're like, no, you know what? That's the last time I updated it was when I was looking for that job. So what I would suggest is, number 1, really ask somebody else to take a look at your profile and say, you know what I do, you actually refer me based on my profile, would you still send people to me? So you want to look at that banner. And truly, Julie, you know what? You don't have to do anything extraordinary banner. If you don't want to figure out anything complex, put a picture of the city you live in, okay? Just get a background of Los Angeles or whatever city you're in, and put a tagline, okay, of what you do and a way to contact you. And then depending upon whether you are that student or you are that person who's, going B2B, it doesn't really matter. Take advantage of the headline. The headline is, we judge a book by its cover. A headline is what grabs us, right?
So important on LinkedIn.
Yeah. And LinkedIn, by the way, if you don't write a headline, LinkedIn gives you one. Yeah. It's your job title. So you could go over there and it says vice president of what? The United States? Or, so you want to make sure that, as one of my clients said, to be terrific, be specific. So make sure you take advantage of that headline. And then the other thing that I would say is, I don't really care which category you fall into, okay? In your contact info, make sure people can contact you.
I know.
Is there an email and a phone number? And I recommend not using your personal cell. I recommend getting either an office number, a Google Voice, Grasshopper, I don't care what it is, but not your personal cell. And the other thing is, use a professional email, right? If you have Hotmail, get rid of it. Seriously. And then the other thing that I see, which is really great. So if you are somebody young and you're looking for your first job, maybe, right? You're out of college. What if in the featured section, you had an interview about you, right? And it kind of goes into, well, why should an employer hire you? And, who are you looking for? And then you have another section with some case studies of people that you don't need names, you don't need dates, but you do want the social proof. Or if you've been on a great podcast like this, put it in the featured section, right? It shows that you actually can speak, that you can answer questions. The formula is the same for pretty much everybody. What really changes is the about section. So first and foremost, always first person. I don't talk about myself in third person. Do you? No. So make it in first person. Also, the most important part are your first 2 or 3 lines. And the reason for that is LinkedIn gives you a sneak preview of what's there. And then you see these 2 little words, see more. You want someone to click that so they'll keep reading, right? So in that, you want to say, why do clients hire you? What makes you different? What kind of services do you offer? Put an example of what others have said. Somebody might say, Joel Siegel is exceptional at ... right, with a real name. Now, all of a sudden, I'm thinking, oh, okay. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to definitely talk to him. And then finally, people move at the speed of direction. What do you want them to do? Book a call, get your free download. The one thing you don't want them to do is you don't want them to go to your website because they're going to leave your profile and never come back, right? You can let them know that it's there, but everything that's on your website should be duplicated on your LinkedIn profile. So if you've got blog articles I know you're somebody, Joel, that writes a lot of really cool blog articles.
Right.
There's a section for publications. Put them there, right? Write articles. A newsletter. Here's a really cool tip. The first time you write your newsletter, LinkedIn actually sends it out to every one of your connections.
Wow.
So they turbocharge it, which is why I haven't done mine yet. I'm actually going to be doing mine right at the beginning of the year because I'm going to be adding some new stuff. And I want to take advantage of the fact that LinkedIn is just going to blast it out for me, right? So there's lots of really cool ways. I think the other thing that I would suggest is use keywords, right? So what I tell people, Julie, is if somebody was looking for you, and I don't care whether you're an attorney, you're an insurance person, whatever it is that you do, and you were going to use Google, because let's just pretend that ChatGPT isn't around yet, right? Because they're still using Google, although ChatGPT is coming up close.
Right.
What would you put in to find that person? Those are the words that you're going to use on your profile. So you're going to step into the shoes of the person that you know is your ideal prospect or referral partner, and you're going to actually write it from their vantage point. Because the truth is, they don't really care about you until they know the results that you're going to get for them. And then finally, this is the thing that is universal: recommendations. What somebody says about you is 1,000 times more powerful than what you say about yourself. Yes. So if I said, Joel Siegel is truly exceptional at what he does, and go into the reasons, and I put it on his LinkedIn, guess what? They're going to believe it because they're going to look at my profile and go, oh, she's real. This was written from the heart. And now there's credibility there. So you want to make sure your recommendations are current, and you want to get someone's attention. Maybe there's somebody that has done a really great job, right? And you never acknowledge them. Write them an unsolicited recommendation, okay? Then send them an email and say, Joel, I've been thinking about you and I'm so overdue. I just wanted to let you know, here's a link. I sent you a recommendation on LinkedIn. I just want to acknowledge the great work that you've done, okay? When you read that, because you might not go to your LinkedIn, I know you're very active, but many people aren't. Guess what? It's like walking out of your car and finding a $20 bill.
Yeah.
Like, wow. And then what are you going to do when you see that? You're going to go, oh, I'm going to go look at their profile. Now, here's a little tip. If you have the paid version of LinkedIn, I don't care whether it's premium or navigator, you see who looks at your profile, right? So, Joel, when somebody looks at your profile, what do you do? Curious.
Well, I see who they are. If I connect with them, if I respond to what they've done, I'm always responding to people who are looking at me. So I connect with them in whatever way I can.
And if they're already connected with you, here's a great tip, okay? Send them a video and say, hey, Rhonda, notice that you viewed my profile. Gosh, it's been a minute since we've connected. Love to get your opinion on something. Promise I'm not selling anything. Would it make sense for us to jump on a call? I'll drop a link to my calendar, or feel free to send me yours, okay? That video is going to make you stand out from everybody else. And the fact is, you already know that I peeked at your profile, so it gives you a reason, right? Because I've been thinking about you. And I'll tell you a very funny story. So I always look at who looks at me, okay? Not because it's ego-driven, it's because I'm curious to see who's been looking at my profile. And one day I saw there was a gentleman that I didn't know that was a first-level connection. And by the way, I looked at his profile, there was a little green dot. The little green dot says, oh, he's online now. And guess what he had there? His phone number. Now, believe it or not, people actually do pick up their phones. So I called him, can't remember the guy's name, and I said, hey, Mike, it's Rhonda Sher. I said, I noticed you just looked at my profile because it told me it was like 2 minutes ago. And he goes, oh my gosh, Rhonda, I'm so embarrassed. And I said, why? He said, because I was looking for another Rhonda. He said, but since you were so kind to actually call me, let me just pull up your profile. So he pulls it up. And he goes, you know what? I don't believe in coincidences. This is really funny. I have been looking for somebody like you. My profile is older than dirt. Can we talk about how you can help me? And I got a client that way. Like, seriously, all I did was just say, hey, I was curious what piqued your interest to look at my profile. And he was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I was looking for a different Rhonda. But, you took the time to
Serendipity.
call me. Right. So it's really a good thing to look at who's looking at you. If you're looking for a job, you definitely want to do that. And then send a video to that person and say, hey, Julie, Rhonda Sher here. Notice that you viewed my profile. Thanks so much. I can barely get my kids to look at me. I mean, if you're funny, you could kind of use it that way, right?
Right.
And you could say, hey, you know what? I saw we're connected. It's been a minute. I'd love to jump on a call. Let's just see how we can support each other. So again, when you send it as a video, guess what? There's a 70% chance that they're going to book.
Yeah.
It's really just a cool little tip that you can use.
And that's a great tip for young adults because they are the video era. That's very normal, comfortable communication for them.
Absolutely.
Ever try to get them to return a call? They don't. Okay. Right. Seriously, they never listen to voicemail, millennials. Okay. Trust me, I gave birth to 2 of them. They see you call, they'll never listen to the voicemail, but they'll call you back. But if you text them, they'll actually call.
And I love the idea of sending a video because it's almost like a hybrid between an in-person and an online network connection. So that's just, for any young adults listening, that's a really great tip, Rhonda. Thanks for sharing that.
The other thing too, I'll just share this real quick.
No, go ahead.
A lot of people don't look at LinkedIn as often. Okay. I would guess, Julie, that you check your email every day, right?
I check my email and LinkedIn, and I drill it into my clients to check it because I think it's such an important platform. But yes, I check my email every day.
Exactly. So here's the secret. Okay. If you've got somebody on LinkedIn, you have their email address. Okay. And you specifically really want to talk to them. All right. This is not a spam. This is not, I want to sell you everything. It's really, I want to talk to you. Create a video. Put it in the email, and this is your headline. You ready? See video. That's it. They open it. They actually open it. And I use a video platform called Dub, D-U-B-B. And the thing I love about Dub is it allows you to hit the reply button, and you can send me a video right back. You don't even have to own the software to do it, right? But you want to get an open rate, and sometimes I'll do both. I'll send the video on LinkedIn, and then I'll go to email and I'll say, hey, Joel, it says see video, right? And then I'll put on the top, hey, Joel, sent this to you on LinkedIn, but not sure how active you are. I wanted to make sure you saw this. So it's just 2 hits because I don't know where you're going to go. That might sit in LinkedIn, for a while, but I know that you're going to look at your email. You're not going to let 2 days go by without looking at your email.
Absolutely. Well, it's kind of...
These are great tips.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like, looking at one of the reasons of course, I know you well, but one of the reasons wanted to have you as a special guest is because I think the platform is becoming kind of predominant really in a large professional strata now across a number of occupations and areas. For example, I'll be hiring sometimes for companies, and I'll go to look at these people on LinkedIn, and their profiles are very underdeveloped. I mean, it's remarkable how many people are actually on LinkedIn but are not using LinkedIn.
And they're getting checked out on LinkedIn. So, one of the things that's really interesting is, and this kind of goes to what you talked about, Julie, yes, there are so many ways that you can generate business on LinkedIn, but the thing that people do not talk about is how much business are you losing because of how you're showing up.
Right.
And I recently was talking to somebody that said, I hired a company. They're sending out all these messages. They were paying about $2,500 a month, okay, for reaching out. And I'm getting crickets. I'm getting nothing. And I said, you know why? Look at your profile. I don't even know what you do. I'm completely confused. And a confused mind makes no decisions. So the actions that you take on LinkedIn only work if you're, what I like to say, runway ready, dressed for the party, right? So many times I say it's like you're going to a black tie event and you're wearing your running you're wearing your running clothes, right? You're wearing your gym clothes. We are all about first impressions. And if I showed up here today and I was, wearing my running clothes, right? And really that's not pretty, trust me. I've got a hat, no makeup. it's scary, right? My credibility goes right through just like that. So we look at headlines and we make decisions based on that. We look at banners, right? I just worked with a financial advisor. Now, this woman works with baby boomers. Okay, so I qualify. I'm a baby boomer, and I said to her, she goes, I want to stand out a little bit. I said, okay. I said, so what do you really focus on? And we kind of focused on the fact that Social Security, because Social Security is very confusing. And the thing that came up was, I said, yeah, it's kind of like a roller coaster, it's up and down. And the problem is that once you get on the roller coaster, you can't get off until it stops, right? I'm not a roller coaster person, but I know that. And when you start Social Security, and then you figure out, oh, wait, I shouldn't have done it now. I should have waited until I was X. Sorry, this is the government. You're stuck, right? So on her profile, I created, using AI and some tools, a picture of an older white-haired couple on a roller coaster. And basically the tagline was something like, your retirement shouldn't be a roller coaster ride. And
Great.
Like, it's catchy, and it really, and now what she's doing is she's putting on local workshops for baby boomers to inform them about Social Security, because one of the things that people don't know is maybe you don't need it, but you could invest it. And so, you don't know what you don't know. So part of what you can do on LinkedIn, and I don't know if you know this, Joel, but it's a really cool little tip, is if you have a business page, okay, very easy to create, and you create an event on LinkedIn, okay, just on Zoom, you can actually see who registers for that event, and you can invite up to 1,000 people a week. So I've done this for myself and for my clients, and I have had, believe it or not, 100 people show up in a Zoom room to listen to me talk about LinkedIn.
I know.
Okay.
I was just in your last one, and there were so many people, close to 100 people were there. It was remarkable. So
again, LinkedIn can be used for so many things, and if you know how to use it. So that's why I suggest to people, even if you work for a company where they have a business page, right? Go create your own. You can have as many business pages as you want. So if you worked for a big company, Joel, you could have a Joel Siegel company page, right? Create it yourself. You can even go over to AI to create some cool graphic with it, right? And put on an event. And then if you wanted to get more than 1,000 people invited, you could call me up and say, hey, Rhonda, I need your help. Would you mind just inviting people that you think could benefit? And now you've got 2,000 people a week that can be invited. Because what's the worst that I could say? No, and I'm not going to say no. Of course, I'm going to invite people for you. So you can literally fill a virtual room on LinkedIn to share your information. And then at the end, have a call to action. Whatever you want that to be, a one-on-one call, go download my book, sell a course, pick your, whatever it is, just whatever you do, have a call to action.
Okay, well, I have to jump in because time is telling me that we have to kind of begin to wrap up. I was actually going to suggest that we make this podcast the whole day and that we have it for 8 hours because you have such a wealth of information. Yes. I knew this would happen when I invited you, and I can't wait to share with video clips, through our audience and yours, Julie's, and mine, all the wonderful things you've talked about. One thing one reaction, since I know you well, but this is still a new reaction, and I do want to share. When you do what you do, and even talking with Julie and I this morning, Rhonda, you get a renewed sense of that business is complex, and there are a lot of different and difficult kinds of problems that need solutions. And it's only with that kind of thinking that you really become more successful. I've really had a renewed sense of that listening to you this morning, and it's really been inspiring because a lot of people don't get to that level, and therefore they're not able to build to that level. So it's been incredible. Julie, what do you think of this morning's podcast interview with Rhonda?
Oh, my gosh. 10 out of 10. 5 stars out of 5. It was just informative and educational and entertaining, and you're just so presentable. You're just such a delightful lady. And it was just really interesting
So
to see
sweet. Thank you.
how creative you have become with your craft. I think, there's that saying that it takes 10,000 hours to master something. And I know that Joel and I in our respective practices are masters at our craft, and we feel very confident and comfortable swimming in the pool that we've filled or skating on the rink that we've frozen. That's where the fun stuff about mastery comes into play. And it's very clear that you are a master of LinkedIn, and your ability to have the fundamentals in place for your clients where, hey, Julie, you asked me a question about these demographics. Forget the demographics. These are some universal truths that everybody needs to know. And then you were able to pick some special flowers out that are really different, and just a different approach, a real creative side angle of how to use a feature, and how to really not look at LinkedIn as some boring blue and white application that everybody has to have a business profile on, but a useful, meaningful, creative tool. And I think that you've really kind of found a way to kind of rebrand LinkedIn, and how to use LinkedIn, and why to use LinkedIn, and how to make it fun. And I think that's a real gift to people who come across your profile and have an experience with you. Everybody who works with you is going to get more out of their digital experience, no question.
Yeah, that we're really saying the same thing, Julie, because when I talked about, Rhonda's presentation today and other times, opening the door to understanding more of the complexities of how to work and how to build work and how to be successful. And you adding the element of creativity and fun that Rhonda brings to the work. These are the kinds of things that differentiate a very special professional. So, gosh, we're out of time. All I can say is it's been so great having you. And I know that we'll be seeing each other much more in the new year, as I'll be using you more effectively, professionally. So there's my endorsement. I've already hired Rhonda, and I'm going to be using her in 2025 to help with my business development. So let's hope that this is only one of several appearances on the show for you, and very grateful for you coming on.
Thank you so much. And I'll leave you with my favorite line. If you're not LinkedIn, you're left out.
There you go. Thanks, Rhonda.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, it's time for my favorite part of every episode, which is the breakdown, where we do, or sometimes we call it the postmortem. It depends on our guest, but where Julie and I, and especially Julie, has a chance to break down what happened with our guest. So, what do you think, Julie?
She's a smart cookie, Joel. No one is smarter than Rhonda, and she has chiseled out a space for herself where she is an expert, and she has taken her creativity and her complex problem solving skills, her relationship skills, and her marketing savvy to drill down so deep into that little crevasse, and she owns it. She owns that crevasse. And I think it's just a testament to finding something you like and learning how to love it and getting really good at it. And she found something she was interested in. That's where it starts. Then you build a skill and you apply that skill, and then you build
you're really right about
and you
that.
apply that. And next thing you know, you're digging in closer and closer and closer to expertise. So, she sniffed it out by finding something that interested her, and that turned into a high volume of interest and a high volume of expertise. And that's exactly how it starts. So for any young adults or kind of early career, approaching mid-career adults who still haven't quite found what they like yet, start with what is whispering at you, and then throw your skills on top of it, and that'll lead you to it. And she found it, and she's doing great.
That's a fantastic summary, and I think you're right. And I would add, for older professionals, LinkedIn is actually an incredibly valuable platform.
Oh, yeah.
Because we, as you know, Julie, you and I on this podcast work with a number of older adults who are transitioning from one area to another in their career. And it was obvious from our special guest today that this is a very important and kind of mandatory platform to help in that transition, to help you go to where you're wanting to go in your transition.
Yes.
I mean, it's great to have an engine that can help drive your transition. And that's what I got from this morning's interview with Rhonda. And I think, for a lot of our mid-career adults who are transitioning to not have that engine help them, they're really missing something.
Absolutely. Mid-career adults, especially those who have been dislocated from work and have some time, would do themselves a very good favor to respect the work that LinkedIn has put in, the thought they have put in to launch new features. They are continuously launching. If you look at LinkedIn every Monday, you'll see something different. They must release over the weekend. And not everything works, and some things are a little bit buggy, and then they get worked out, and then they get removed and replaced with the earlier version. But in the end, over time, LinkedIn has improved, become more granular, become more feature rich, and you can have just a static profile. And if you follow what Rhonda said, and which is what I do with all of my clients, make sure your settings are open and people can find you. It will work to a certain degree, but if you are proactively using LinkedIn as a tool for a mid-career professional, absolutely. It's the way you survey your ecosystem, your own personal workforce, so your own personal candidate, pool of opportunity.
Right, absolutely.
It's critical.
And once you've made a decision about a direction, then it can be really helpful. It seems to me, I'm just thinking it through, that it would be incredibly helpful to help you in that new direction, to build connections, to build connectivity, to actually become employed in your new direction, or to find the resources and the tools that will help you get to that next destination.
Absolutely.
And that's a big part of Career Lab. So I'm really happy we did this today.
Yeah, that was neat to bring in a piece of technology that supports the work that we do on the front end with our clients.
Just another great show, that we have on Career Lab. And thanks to you, Julie, for bringing in all your incredible talent and intellectual precocity to the program. I really love you for that. So let me close, because we have to run today. We're just about out of time, but want to remind people about Career Lab. Career Lab is available on all your major podcasts, Apple, any podcast platform that you're on, it's available. And you can go to our archive of shows, during which we have 6 seasons of very interesting shows like this one, and special guests like Rhonda Sher, who have tremendous expertise. So this is a way for you to, when you're driving or have time to occupy, really hear from important and really highly developed professionals about what they do, how they got there, where they're going. And of course, also the opportunity to hear from the erudite and wonderful Julie LaCroix about her perspective about how these things happen. So we'll be back soon with another episode. And until then, take care. See you soon.
Bye.